Good morning, afternoon, evening. I am Howard Lindzon, and I'm here today with my friend and co-worker, head of product at Stocktwits, 8-year veteran, 9-year almost at Stocktwits.
Almost 9.
Mike Bozzello in Long Island today.
Yeah, that's right. In the suburbs, living the family life, Howard.
Mike is camera shy. He likes to be behind the scenes, but he has been heavily at work for 8 years, building out Stocktwits. And the reason we want to do this product show is Stocktwits has so many new features. We're trying to figure out ways to create an even stickier product for our customers. Everybody gets into their habits, but there's lots of cool things that you can do on Stocktwits. So who better to have than the guy who builds all the features and yells at weekly meetings, Howard, we can't have this, we can't have that, focus. So Mike, give everybody a little background on what you were doing before Stocktwits.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Howard. I'm excited to be here. I'm essentially the chief no officer to Howard all day, but that's part of my job. Yeah, so I've been deep in the markets for over 20 years. I mean, before Stocktwits, I was building a smaller community, a subscription product around trading, very technical analysis heavy. Communities sort of in my DNA. And then obviously I joined Stocktwits in January 2017. So almost 9 years, which is, I think I'm a unicorn in the tech world, but yeah, came in on the community side, managed community, you know, a lot of the people probably watching this show now, made a lot of great friendships, and then graduated slowly to the product side. And now, yeah, running product and engineering and doing my best to, you know, change the product since Howard took back over last year. So really excited to be here.
Yeah, we've been building in public since the beginning. I'm not a developer, or coder, or engineer. I'm more a, build for me. I'm the number one user, whether people like it or not. So I build for myself. And you were brought in by Justin Paterna, who was our head of product. And I met you before leaving. And then I stayed involved on the board, but and the product side. But really, the 8 years you've been there, we've only really been working together the last 2.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there was, big shift in our focus. We were focused on brokerage for, better part of 5 years or so, but never lost the kind of community DNA. And yeah, Justin Paterno was a great mentor to kind of learn about product and building for the community first, which essentially is building for you, Howard, and myself. I'm a community member before I worked at Stocktwits too.
Yeah, I have this saying that community is both priceless and worthless, right? And if we could open up Stocktwits at any moment of the day and find both priceless and worthless, it's kind of like a garage sale of ideas. JP Ragswani says there's no such thing as information overload, only filter failure. So that's the opportunity and the problem of building a community, right? You want people to come in and share ideas, and 99% of them no one will like. And the idea is, do you curate for people or do you let people self-curate? And that's always been the dilemma, whether it's Twitter or Reddit or Facebook or Stocktwits and different scale. How do you, as the product person, with everybody in your ear and the community in your ear and me in your ear, how do you think about all this as we develop the product further?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ultimate challenge is, do you tell your users what they should view or do you let the users decide what they should view? I think that's somewhat solved for us in the sense that the markets are real time. So we can't get away from real time because information, once it's stale, is no longer as relevant. So I think real time first is how we think about things. But how do you give the community tools to filter through the noise? Because let's all be real, there is a ton of noise on Stocktwits too. It's natural to the platform. So I think, we've kind of lasted long enough at Stocktwits to get that problem solved through AI. And that's kind of the lens that, the product team and I are thinking about things now is how do we help people through the noise and actually derive as much value as they're looking to get from Stocktwits. So I think it's a really exciting time for us now at Stocktwits to leverage AI and the technology that's out there for us.
As a product person in 2025, what's different? It seems like feels like a Web 2 era where there's so much product coming at you. We started Stocktwits in the social mobile cloud era. We've got the social still, but it's a bad word. We have mobile, but people like their desktops now just as much as ever. We have the cloud world now, but I think the biggest change for me is that AI allows us to go back and unlock a lot of things that weren't, there was this, there was machine learning, there was data engineers, there was all these scientists that we had coming and looking at our data. It kind of was like a car mechanic looking under the hood, right? Like, how do you trust? It still didn't feel like the thing. AI comes out and it's like, oh, another bright, shiny toy by Silicon Valley. But what's different about this and why I came back is it really is a way to turn everything inside out, right? If you put stuff in and you ask the right questions, you can get good stuff out. And I think that's where a community goes from, hey, it was worthless to potentially priceless, right? How do I go back in history and pull out this data? So on a biggest picture, how do you think of that?
Yeah, so to me, AI just unlocks access. And I think that's kind of what Stocktwits did at its core. Before retail was cool, right? Before retail was a thing and people believed in it, before GameStop, there was this feeling that it's just retail, they don't matter. And now that's caught up, right? Robinhood and has unlocked that and made access to brokerage and trading more accessible to everybody. And now retail matters. AI to me does the same thing. It's access to tons of information in the way that you want to get it. We view it very much as how does AI unlock solving a problem for our community? And again, for us, we're in a really amazing position that we have all this unique data over 17 years now, Howard, to really show people what they can get from the data that a lot of people know, but is less accessible to new people coming to Stocktwits, right? That's kind of that information overload. So I'm super excited about, again, really just using it to solve problems quicker, move quicker, and unlock more value for everybody.
There's two areas where news in real time matters, truly. Finance, because breaking the markets and the futures are driven by news and information, and sports betting, like injuries, game times, static real-time moments that the clock starts ticking. And so when Twitter came out, those are the two areas that interest me. And so you go build Web 2, and then you get away from real time, right? Twitter got away from real time. Everybody got into an algo-based feed. Facebook started that. But in finance, it really kind of killed the vibe of Twitter when they jumbled up the feed. When we got back to our roots, we were like, okay, where does real time matter? Obviously, if the president says something, it moves markets. It's a war, major events. But for companies, it generally comes around news events, around earnings. So we went right back to our roots when I came back and said, listen, let's make earnings better. It may not be for everybody, but there's nothing more real time that matters. There's 4 Super Bowls a year, the quarterly earnings calls. There's a certain amount of people at the 7,000 public companies around the indexes where that's their Super Bowl. They have to get it right. They have to report to their shareholders. So how did you think about that? Well, that's the first big product launch that we had, about a year ago. So talk about that.
Yeah, I think that was a culmination of, for me, like 9 years at Stocktwits, right? So we all knew that Stocktwits gets an insane amount of traffic during earnings. It, like you said, it's the Super Bowl, but it's 4 times a year. Nothing's more exciting. So retail lives and dies by the earnings calls, earnings announcement. I mean, that is the degenerate economy that you talk about at its best, right? Is like YOLO options into earnings. That's the world we live in now. So for us, it was how do we make it more accessible to our community? And our community wants to talk on Stocktwits. That's our DNA. That's what we're good at. So let's lean into that. Perfect timing around APIs, right? We leverage quarter APIs that provide the earnings calls for us. And then the culmination of the experience is do it within the user flow. Don't send them off somewhere else. Just, hey, I'm on the NVIDIA page, click a button, I'm in earnings, and now we're all focused and talking about the same thing. And I think that was one of the bigger changes from the combo to the event. It's just like having your buddies over for the Super Bowl, right? Grab your beer, grab your drinks, have some food, talk shit about the game, and get excited. So for me, it's the perfect combo for our community. And again, that was one of our favorite products that we launched since you came back, Howard. Team did an incredible job, just really exciting.
Yeah, I think a Stocktwits is your home base for pre-trade, post-trade, blowing off steam, looking for a fresh idea, related tickers. AI, we'll get into that. We'll bring all that to the forefront. But, as I've gotten older, and I think this happened with Robinhood in the GameStop era, there's only so much you can squeeze. I think GameStop was the absolute peak mobile moment for investing. It doesn't mean mobile is not going to get more important, but it was the peak moment where design met, the markets met, COVID versus people not having a lot to do. Everybody kind of was staring at the same button at the same time. So you had peak mobile moment. Now we're spanning back up. We're people that survived all this and kind of like it, whether they're a degen or a value investor, or a momentum investor, or a trader, a chartist, is okay. There aren't 5 stocks. Once people realize that this isn't just about GameStop, right, and Robinhood, and realize that there's different sectors and there's just all kinds of way to play. That was a moment to me that says, listen, it's going to take years, but and then desktop computers are getting better, Wi-Fi is getting better, you got Starlink coming out, like the power of these desktops is incredible, plus the screen, plus the ability to consume information. So in knowing that, we had to build more product for desktop people. One thing that I've been screaming about since 2017 is, social VIX, a social relative strength, social sentiment. How did you start thinking about that, and how do we bring that about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Howard, it comes back to, when you joined, it was like, what else can we unlock from the community through our data? And that's, we talked about that a little bit earlier around AI, what it can unlock for us. But we have a lot of data that we want to present back to the community, right? And allow them to use it how they see fit. And everybody interprets data different. So we actually really kind of started that with our polls. So again, we see the messages. Some people love the polls, some people hate the polls, but that's what makes it beautiful to me, is it's more information for people to consume and decide, is this useful for my trading and investing, or is this not useful? What signal is this deriving? And then I think, with the social sentiment index that we launched about a month back now, that's kind of taking it all together, combining it all and saying across the entire landscape of retail right now, are they fearful? Are they greedy, right? It's your whole kind of social VIX moment coming together. And again, to me, all information is good information, right? It's just a matter of how you want to use it. So really excited about these new data points. And this is going to be one of many data points that the community starts to see. And again, I'm a believer, some will like certain data points and others will not. And to me, that's the beauty of it, is kind of finding what it is. I love the social sentiment index. I'm a chartist at heart. So we're about to launch a SPY overlay on it. So you can really see when that fear and greed, or when there's divergences between the peaks and the troughs, right? And that to me is super interesting, because I think sometimes retail's lagging, but sometimes retail's ahead too. And again, bringing that all together is it's a lot of fun.
I want to go through 2 big topics still, crypto and AI. So they interact, they don't, they're separate, they're 2 mega trends. So it feels like crypto's been around forever because we've been talking about it. And this is the amazing thing about Stocktwits, is like, man, when we started Stocktwits, there was no crypto, right? It was, people were talking about financial stocks, right? It was 2008 crisis, to now we're 15, almost 20% of our audience is crypto. And so for us, it was like, not that people weren't talking about Bitcoin, but there was a point in time in 2017 where Bitcoin, the ticker BTC.X, was trending over SPY. So even though Bitcoin was like 15 to 17,000 at the time, I got bullish then. Meaning enough people on Stocktwits, which are not the first in, but they're kind of like the second, third, fourth in, and they're not the last in unless it's about fear. So that's when I got excited, 2017, right when you started, but it was still very small. But that's when I knew the trend was happening. And then when I came back, I said, we need to kind of separate. There's, the name of the company is Stocktwits. You're not going to change the name of the company. It wouldn't be smart. But at the same time, we've been pitched we've been pitched a million other twits, but CryptoTwits just seem natural to us, to allow people that just are crypto native, the 20% to come to Stocktwits, just to see Stocktwits in a crypto form. So how did you think through that and get that launch?
Yeah, I think, crypto to me is still early. And I don't necessarily mean that like, Bitcoin's going to 1 million. Maybe it will and all that, but I still think from a demographic of people getting into crypto, it still feels really early. For us, again, it goes back to filtering. You have to allow people to kind of filter their experience, and Stocktwits as a whole was getting really mashed up, right? You have people who only want to see equity, and then you have fart coin trending over SPY, and that becomes frustrating to the people who are equity only. The crypto folks want a place to have more fun and pump their coins. And, we had to split off. We had to grow. And again, I think we did a great job in the early days of organizing the streams by .x as an example, but we have to grow beyond that to support the Web3 world that we want to be taken more seriously in. And our audience wants to use Stocktwits to do it. So again, we just figured, okay, let's set the groundwork. We launched CryptoTwits. It's a crypto first experience. I want to see all crypto watch lists, all crypto trending, a kind of a spicier interface, which I think is, more in tune with what people expect on the crypto world. But what's coming next is really more data in crypto. We need to remove the .x. We need to really take that next step to really support that community. And again, what I say to the team internally is there's no site better for crypto than stock. I mean, crypto is about talking shit, pumping your coin, getting excited, right? I mean, that is really what it's about. And that's what community is. Crypto is community. Stocktwits is community. CryptoTwits is community. So really excited about what we got coming out for crypto here in the next couple of months too.
Now then along comes AI. So now Stocktwits, you got 15, 20% of the audience and growing moving to crypto, and along comes AI. And AI for me was like, okay, I can type in a prompt and retrieve information. I think Elastic and Search was the Web 2 version of this and still a great product, Elastic. But AI is a whole different concept. So how do you think about AI in the Stocktwits world?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, for the way we like to explain and simplify it down is that AI is kind of the unifying layer on top of everything else, right? So you have stocks, you have crypto, and then AI kind of sits on top of it, right? And it's as you said, it allows you to extract from that. And then from our standpoint, what we think is the most interesting is we have the unique data that nobody else sits on, right? That is a unique set of insights. And then you have the commoditized stuff. That the commoditized is to me, a race to zero, right? It's a race to the bottom because it's what it always is, right? What we want to do is combine the two. And then again, it's all about the use cases and problems it can solve with Stocktwits, from spam and bots to fact checking people, right? To extracting unique insights about something you care about. So I think for us, this is the next phase that Stocktwits is really going to move into Q4, into early next year, is how do we use AI to extract as much from the community value as we can give. And then of course, there's just the engineering benefits, the product benefits, right? From an internal team perspective. I think that's kind of talked about, all the time, but you can't overlook that. Teams faster, we're faster on the product side, easier to prototype, easier to get an idea out, right? Easy to engineer, easier to test your code, all those things. Again, it's just the new table stakes for any, I think, active product engineering team.
AI will help us with bots. AI will help us with people that don't want to use the site all the time, but want to come and extract, and they'll be able to pay a fee for that. And it'll help with people that use the site all the time, but want to get better utility out of the site. So I think for those people, the combination of crypto, real-time feeds, earnings, and AI is a boon for people that have invested in Stocktwits. So I would say for those people that are using it all the time, your instincts are correct. For those that want to get more out of it, there's no real perfect answer. What are you excited about coming up then? We won't air this until a couple of things come up, but let's talk about what's coming up.
So I just want to piggyback on the AI stuff a little bit, Howard, because I think there's two personas that you have to think about when you think about AI. It's the user, the person who wants to actively use AI, talk to AI. They're willing to commit to it, right? Which is still a hurdle for a lot of people. You said it before, right? You're starting to use AI, but maybe not as much as I'm using it, right? So I think there's a group that's going to actively know what they want to ask it, and you have to be able to provide that, right? It's about, imagine you can ask, an agent on Stocktwits, hey, give me trending AI stocks that have bullish sentiment, low follower counts, and high short interest. Well, hey, we should be able to spit that back to you, and you can now get trade ideas and information on it, right? But I also view the type of people who don't know what to ask it, right? So I go to the NVIDIA stream and I want to be provided insights, right? So imagine coming to the NVIDIA stream and saying, hey, there's an emerging bull thesis here, and 5 of the top follow traders at Stocktwits are providing key insights. Like, let me see what that is and help me, right? So I think we think about those two kind of people on Stocktwits. And again, I feel like I'm a version of both of those. Sometimes I know what I want to ask, but sometimes I need to be given it too. So really excited about that. I think typical use cases, right, is, summarizing the stream, or, even if we focus on launch features, the why it's trending feature has been massive
It's
for
already
us.
live. Like
That's already live. Yep.
you gave a sneak peek of what's coming, right?
Yeah, sneak peek, and then already live the why it's trending, which again, has been a question everybody's asked us at Stocktwits is, I see it trending, but why is it trending? And
Yeah.
luckily for us, AI caught up to help us out, because otherwise it's really hard to extract that data.
So there really is now a database, and a growing database, of how people are thinking, feeling, what they're interested in. And so in a post-AI world where it becomes cheaper to both deploy product and cheaper for the customer to consume information, this is probably why there's a boom. Again, I can't tell people how long it lasts or what the values are, but in a world where it's easier for a company that's successful to build, and it's easier for a consumer to get, that's productivity. And that will lead to all kinds of new use cases for Stocktwits and new business models for the world. And I think that's why kind of people are excited about AI.
Yeah. And Howard, the other thing about AI that I think is so interesting for Stocktwits is everybody's focused on talking to an agent or talking to an LLM, right? And people are going to stop thinking about building communities, which are incredibly difficult to build. So in many ways, I think Stocktwits was ahead of its time by establishing a community, which is nearly impossible to do. I mean, how many people have we seen try to do it? And
it's thankless.
It's lightning in a bottle. It's not pretty. It's very difficult work. Community is tough. One of the toughest jobs, I can tell you firsthand. And I think that's what makes this a perfect time for us at Stocktwits is everybody's focused on the agent, this fake thing, this robot, right? And then the people connection is going to be lost, but we're going to continue to kind of elevate that while using AI to help us do that. So I actually think this is like the perfect storm for Stocktwits. And that's why a lot of people think we're just an entirely new company in the last year and a half, and it's just starting. So yeah, I'm super excited about what AI is going to do for us there.
So what are the top, you get so many from me and everybody. What are like the top 2 kind of requests that you're taking seriously from the community that you think are great ideas?
Yeah, we'll go through a bunch here. I think the first one, just to get it out there, is the bots, right? The biggest complaint we hear, and it's the biggest challenge a real-time network has, is bots and spam, right? And I think, people forget, if you go to Twitter, it's like you said, it's an algo, right? So they can make sure the first view you have is not spam, right? But if you go to the conversations in Twitter now, it's awful. I tried to go to one of your posts last night. I saw 30 replies, and I was like, can't wait to see this thread.
On Twitter or Stocktwits?
On Twitter, and all 30 replies were spam. So we have the reverse problem, right? The real time. But, just want to let the community know we're taking this extremely serious. Again, I was born in the community, doing it before we had systems in place. We're revamping our entire moderation infrastructure right now. It's a really big undertaking, and it's a never-ending fight. This is a war of attrition for sure, but I think people are going to see some big changes here in the coming weeks around our moderation that I'll be very happy about. And then again, I think we got to give our community more tools to filter out the things that they don't want to see too. So I think it's a multi-pronged effort, but it starts with a really strong moderation infrastructure, and we're doing a big overhaul right now. So that's probably the biggest one I want to just get out there and say, we hear you guys, trust us. It's the number one problem that we're worried about at Stocktwits right now.
You come to Stocktwits to become a better investor. Now, you have to put up with some nonsense along the way, but really Stocktwits is supposed to be a selfish product where you come, you share your ideas, and you track your ideas and how you felt and how other people felt, and trying to find 100 or 200 people that really are good at the market. But remember, when we fix one hole, another hole appears. So people just need to understand the problem here is they'll never stop because it's so cheap for Cloudflare. If people follow Cloudflare, one reason you own the stock is every time you mention bot and spam, you should buy 1 share of Cloudflare or Google, because you've just donated to the future of everybody. I mean, Cloudflare and Google and these companies, all they think about is helping companies like us battle this. So people need to turn what they think is their biggest complaint into how to make money. Obviously, you're rolling out bot stuff. What's the next big thing that you think is super important?
I think a lot of the comments to these posts, which I absolutely love, and again, we literally read each one internally. We do not miss any of these. So if anybody thinks we're turning a blind eye, we don't. We read each one. I think, again, somebody summarized it perfect, which kind of summarized our convo, Howard. It's like, it's really hard to extract from all the noise, right? And I think like that is what we're excited about. We're excited about what AI can do there for folks. And that's all kind of one and the same problem, right? Some people consider spam actual posts because they're super bullish and they don't want to hear bearish. So, people will say, oh, that person's lying because they're bearish. Well, what if you could fact check that person right on the spot, right? And pull up real data there. And, at least you're going to make a decision that's based on something that's actual. It's up to you to create the own echo chamber that you want there. So we are super excited about what AI does there. And that was one of the big comments that we heard throughout this thread here.
Okay, great. We're going to do this at least quarterly just to catch people up, so people get to meet the team and to keep people making decisions. But keep sharing your ideas. Listen, hit me up at Howard Lindzon. This has been Stocktwits inside look at our product coming up. Thanks, Mike, for joining. And thanks, everybody at Stocktwits.
Thanks, Howard.